My 41M former best friend, Dan, 43M, and I used to be very close. We went to Vegas together, hunting trips, fishing trips, and I even invested in his restaurant. He was my best man at my wedding. I texted him 20 to 30 times a day. He was married to Savannah, 34F, who was next friends with my wife, Ashley, 38F. Around 6 years ago, I caught my now ex-wife cheating on me. I was on a business trip for 2 weeks in Charlotte. The client I was working with wanted to fly me to Miami, BC. He invested in some weird sports league down there and wanted to continue working on the deal. I wanted to finish it and go home as quickly as possible to my wife, BC. I stupidly missed her, so I agreed. One night in Miami, I'm out to get dinner at this really fancy steak place in South Beach. I'm sitting at the bar and I see this beautiful girl with a silver streak in the back of her head. I think the medical term for it is scoliosis. It looks exactly like my wife's hair. I sit there at the bar staring at the back of this woman's hair, not really putting two and two together. I see these two people kissing and being intimate. I don't think anything of it. None of my business. Until the woman gets up and goes to the bathroom with us directly behind me. It's my wife, Ashley, and I lock eyes. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. It feels like my heart is literally trying to escape my chest and leave my body. She tries saying something to me, but I take out 200s and give it to the bartender and leave without saying anything to her. I fly home that night, tell the client I'll finish the deal over the phone. I go straight to Dan's house. I'm bawling. He doesn't say much. Savannah comes in and asks Dan, "How much did you tell him?" She said it to Dan like she was scolding him for telling me anything. I stop crying and look up and see that both their faces were blank. It turns out that my wife had been seeing the man in Miami for half of our 6-year marriage, and that both Dan and Savannah knew. It was Savannah's felon brother. Savannah told me that I was gone too often, but I had that job for longer than I knew Ashley. She knew I did that when she married me, and I always hurried home to her or took her sometimes in the summer. She was an elementary school teacher. Savannah and Dan had both known the entire time. Neither said a word to me or even hinted at it. When I found this out, I stood up and I walked out and never spoke to Dan, Ashley, or Savannah again. All contact from that moment on was via attorney. I made Dan buy me out of his restaurant. He had to put a second mortgage on his house to do it. That was 5 years ago. I've switched jobs to one that doesn't travel nearly as much. Ashley is now married to the felon, and she's currently awaiting him to get out of prison again. That must incredibly difficult life with her 2 fellow babies. But who should walk through my door today to request a business loan but Dan? Dan walks right up to me and tries to shake my hand. He tells me it's been too long. I tell him that it hasn't been long enough, but it doesn't erase the smile from his face. He goes into his spiel about needing a bridge loan to make it through a rough spot in his business funding. I ask him to tell me the details of his hardship. This will be important later. He does. After he's done telling me everything, I tell him to get out of my office. He looks at me with genuine surprise in his eyes and asks me, why? This question makes me irrationally angry, tbh. Why? I went off on him, telling him exactly why. And once more I tell him not only am I not going to loan him money, but I'm going to call the other local banks and tell them not to loan him the money using the details he gave me earlier. This was 2 months ago. He never got a loan. 5 of his 8 businesses are closed now. I saw Savannah in the grocery and she scowled at me. I simply smiled back at her like she did when she told me that her brother was better for Ashley than I was. Am I the asshole?